sort of live and delayed. Um, Welcome to Coffee with Callum. I haven't got coffee. I've got soda water today, but that will have to do. I have got my co-host here today is Adam Strong. Some of you might have seen myself and Adam chatting on his awesome podcast. That was probably like a month or two ago. And I had such fun that I decided it would be cool to get Adam on and just have a chat. So we're just going to have a chat about what we're both working on, what's going on in the world of business, what's interesting. If you have any questions for either of us on anything kind of small business or finance or fundraising or scaling or anything interesting, keep it clean. Stick a note in the messages and I will periodically check, and I will try my best not to spend the full half hour complaining about what a clunky system LinkedIn Live is, but I think that's what I did on my last one. Adam, how are you doing? You mentioned that you had just got out of the swimming pool.
I did. I just got out of the swimming pool. It's 41 degrees here today. So not to kind of defriend anyone or to, because I know there's a lot of people out there. I got messages saying, hey, it's so cloudy and rainy here. Send me some sunshine. So wherever you are in the world, if you are seeing gray clouds, I'm sending you lots of sunshine.
Very cool. I was in Dubai. So you're in Cyprus, yeah?
Yeah.
And so I was in Dubai last week. I'm back in Singapore today. 41, 42 is actually kind of that's pretty toasty. It's
getting uncomfortable there. Yeah.
Yeah.
But jump in the pool in between meetings. They're all good.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I did quite a lot of my Zoom calls with Europe from my balcony and just sit out there in t-shirt, and it does really annoy people. especially over the winter. I should probably stop doing that. But cool. So what are you working on at the moment? What's interesting in your world?
Yeah, really good question, actually. So I think I mentioned this offline, but next week we're starting our peer-to-peer group, if you want to call it that. I call it it's like an inner circle group, Callum. And we have some very awesome businesses, mainly professional services industries. And we're going to be starting up our monthly get-togethers, our gatherings, and yeah, it's going to basically be an incubator for growth, great for collaboration, human connection, but also just a great way to, I don't know about you, but I've been in the game of business for such a long time. I feel like we really lose the not ambition, but we really lose the understanding of why we grow businesses, right? And for me, if I'm not having fun and creating joy, it's completely obsolete. Do you know what I mean? And so, people, I don't know, I don't know about you, where we have conversations with other people, but that's so serious. It's like, dude, just be cool. Do you know what I mean? Like, literally, like you just need to have some more fun and joy. And honestly, when you do have more of that in your life, I can guarantee you, like, clarity becomes so much more clearer. You have so much more energy. And also it's about surrounding yourself with like-minded people that can, not just pour into your glass, but also an opportunity where you can learn from their journey and how you can apply that to your own journey. I think there's just so much it's so underestimated what you can learn from other people's wisdom and how to apply in your own life or business.
Yeah, and it's a very interesting point because, as I was mentioning to you, I've just started doing a mastermind around how to raise capital from both the financial markets, private sector, and part of the reason I did it was for exactly the same reason. Like, business is a team sport; it's just more fun to do it. And interestingly, when I was putting together kind of the brief of what this was and what it was about, I kind of focused on all of the serious stuff, like this, earning opportunity and all of this, and then I put it at the end, and it's just more fun to do it as a group. And then I thought, should I put that, like, because But basically, when you're selling something, you always sell it in terms of what the other person is looking for. And that was clearly what I wanted. That I wanted to hang out with cool people and do cool
Yeah.
deals. Like that's fun. But I think you're right. And I think there's probably actually scope for me to go back into that and beef that element up, because I think, you know, any of us that are ambitious and driven and doing stuff, it's very easy to get caught in quite a solitary space. And even though we're working with people, we're not working with people. And so yeah, it's interesting. I'll have you done these kind of masterminds before, or is this the first time for you?
So we did it actually, we did a lot of stuff online, you know, just because of COVID and stuff, we couldn't really meet in person. So this is actually the before COVID, we did do some quarterly mastermind groups because I was living in Stockholm, Sweden at the time. So I
Yeah.
picked the best venue in the whole of the city. It was called the Grand Hotel. The architecture went back to like 16th, 17th century. So it was amazing, amazing venue. And I would have a speaker fly in. We'd have like literally so much fun, you know, dip into the kind of Swedish delicacies of what that looks like as well. And it was just like, seriously, Callum, no, it was great fun. And I
Yeah.
just feel like when we went online, it kind of destroyed certain parts of it from an energy perspective. So
Yeah.
now I'm kind of like, I was so edging back to wanting to get back to live events now. I don't know. I just feel like there's this just kind of magic that happens. It sounds kind of unicorn, like wishy-washy fluff, but it isn't. It just something's different about it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, it's very true. So I same thing. I was doing a lot of travel prior to COVID. Obviously, everything died away with COVID. We were doing, my business partner Jeremy runs these big Harbour Club events, and we would have 70 to 100 people in the room, all deal makers, all kind of sharing ideas and looking to collaborate. And we'd done a few kind of one-day events since then. And then about, I guess a month ago or so, when I was in the UK, we did the first full 3-day Harbour Club since pre-COVID. And again, like 70 people in the room. And as much as I begrudge the 13-hour flight and the jet lag and the all the pain, I just couldn't argue with the energy in the bar, and like people are just doing deals and still, like, now, even sort of a month or so later, the amount of ripple that's still coming off it with stuff happening and things happening. And so actually I don't we haven't publicly announced this yet, but myself, Jeremy, and Dan Priestley are going to do a week in the US in August, and just do a day in several venues, just bounce around the US, because yeah, it's fun and it works. It's yeah, it's
Sounds like
good.
an amazing. Sounds like I should be packing my bags and joining you.
Yeah, no, definitely.
It's a great
So
one. Love it.
what have you been what have you been learning lately? What's been taking your interest or keeping you awake at night to think about?
Do you know what? That's a really interesting question. I think the thing what's been fascinating me more than anything else, Dan Priestley talks about this a lot actually, which is marketing, really, in all fairness,
Mm.
and how it's changed and how it's evolved. Um, the way that we kind of when we think about marketing strategy, marketing is very different from where it was 4 years ago compared to what it is now. Like in terms of execution, in terms of like how you connect with people, how you deliver transformation for people. And there's like, and do you know what? I don't know about you, but I love experimenting. And you know,
Mm.
I
Yeah,
feel like I feel like a
definitely.
scientist. I feel like a scientist where I just kind of, you know what I mean, like Doctor, you know, scientist strong, like you know, with his experiments, evil experiments. But in all fairness, though, I love experimenting, and I've what I've really enjoyed as part of it is I've found things that don't work, right? And
Yeah,
I don't see that as,
most things don't
but
work.
most things don't work exactly. And then you start thinking to yourself, and then you start to go down this path of, am I good enough? Am I, and then you start comparing yourself to other people, and it's like, get yourself out of your head, get yourself out of the sand. But in fairness though, I've really been enjoying obviously podcasting. I've actually been dabbling in some YouTube space actually recently. So what's really interesting is that I spend a lot of my time on LinkedIn like you, and I feel like I've got the knack of LinkedIn. I really enjoy being on there. But one of the things I really wanted to do is I really wanted to get out in the bigger wide world, and I thought YouTube would be a great platform to get out there. So we're just at the beginning stages of fine-tuning YouTube. If you guys want to follow me over on YouTube, you're welcome to. By the way, I've only got 250 subscribers, so I'm not a big YouTuber, as you can now. But literally just creating great content, Callum.
It all changes when you get to 251. It's just after that.
There you go. In fact, I got 251 this morning, by the way. So maybe it will change for me. So there you go. But yeah, so that's kind of
YouTube's. I think it's probably number 2 on my strategy. So I've got LinkedIn first and foremost, because that's where most of my world lives, and then YouTube is definitely number 2. Yeah. The interesting thing about YouTube is that if you play the game right, it can actually pay for the funnel, because you can earn off it, but it's very, very difficult to crack through. There's a lot of options out there, so it does take a lot of time and a lot of effort, but it's another one that's great for experimenting. And because we now get that feedback so quickly, whereas back when you and I started, we would launch a product, take us 6 months to realize that client didn't want it, knocking on doors and trying to sell it. Now if you put a video out or you put a LinkedIn post out and it doesn't get the traction you're expecting, you can look at it and go, well, did I not use an image? Was the title rubbish? And so it's actually, I find, much easier and more fun to do that experimentation than it used to be in the good old days.
Yeah, I agree. In fact, interestingly enough, I think we share similar. We're both on LinkedIn as number 1 and YouTube as number 2 for us. So we share the same journey. But there's also a lot of moving parts with YouTube as well. That one thing that I've learned a lot about YouTube is the quality of video editing needs to be top notch. Absolutely top notch.
Remind me that I haven't actually recorded this. I'm so bad at this.
Oh my God. There you go.
So for those watching the replay, we're just starting. You haven't missed anything.
Yeah. No, we've only been talking for the last hour. No, I'm only kidding.
Watch the live one.
Watch the live one, exactly. That will serve you right for not being live. Anyway, but yeah, no, so video editing, really super important. I'm really understanding and appreciating actually really good video editing as well. And do you know what? The other thing I really found is that it actually requires a lot more harder work to hook people into your funnel, build a relationship or whatever. It's so much more difficult. You have to work so much more harder than you did maybe 10 years ago when, do you remember the times, Callum, when you launched a newsletter and everyone would subscribe? That day is now plain and gone.
Yeah.
So
I think an important distinction for you that took me a while to learn is you kind of look at some of these. There's a difference between YouTube content that gets a lot of views and YouTube content that serves your purpose. And so when you're putting content out, it's important to differentiate between whether you're going top of funnel or warm or hot lead type stuff. Because if you're going top of funnel, you do need to kind of do that Mr. Beastification, like very fast edits, keep people engaged. But you kind of need to train them out of that, because you can't do an hour long of that's too much. And actually most of our content, when we're trying to share information that can help transform somebody, you're not going to do that with lots of flashy graphics and all that sort of stuff. They need to be able to sit patiently and watch you, even if it is on double speed. So yeah, just kind of be sort of cautious of when you're putting content out. Are you going top of funnel or are you going middle? That's kind of one thing. It took me probably too long to learn. Maybe a couple of questions have come in. So Sanjay Roy, who is a Rear Admiral, as a Veblen member. So he says, good afternoon to you both. Adam and Callum, what, in your opinion, is the future of luxury mobility businesses in the present day scenario? Could a business survive by renting out or leasing limos, watches, yachts, and aircraft? He's taking an opinion. What's our gut feeling? Needn't be
Oh,
with facts and figures. Interesting.
interesting.
Having just spent a week in Dubai, sitting on luxury yachts and driving around in nice cars. What's
Well,
your
I'll let you go
like?
first, mate. I'll let you go first, mate. I'm interested to hear what your opinion is first.
Yeah, look, I think the I can think of a really inappropriate quote, so I probably won't do that since we're live and recorded now about whether it flies, floats, or something. Um, it's better to rent than to own. I think there's a lot of there is actually a lot of services out there already that are in that space. So, like any business, it really comes down to is there a need for it, and are you able to, what's your X factor, what are you offering different than everything else that's already out there? And I think, I'm having a lot of these conversations, so in terms of kind of the mastermind and the experimentation that we're talking about, Adam, like I'm starting everything now really heavily geared towards the end buyer and getting the commitments from them before I do anything else. And I just, I spent the first 10, 15 years of my career doing it the wrong way around, building stuff and then going out and trying to sell it. And the whole process with investors that we do now is we go and say, what companies are you looking to buy? What companies are you looking to invest in? Let me go and find those companies, because we're overwhelmed with stuff and people trying to raise capital for a project. So investors are overwhelmed. You need to find out what it is they want. And I'd say with the luxury market, it's the same thing. And it all comes down to human psychology as well. We don't want to buy what you can sell. We want to buy what other people want to buy. And so if I was looking at the watch collection on the yacht the other day, and rarity was the bigger factor rather than price. It was like, well, there's not that many of these around. That's kind of the factor. So you need to figure out what what's your differentiator.
Yeah.
So that'd be
Yeah.
my take. What's your take?
Yeah, I think you make a really valid point there. Unique selling proposition is always a plus. I wrote that down actually before. The other thing I was going to say to you as well, if you look at other businesses, I mean, most things have been invented, Callum, haven't they? In this day and age, it's really difficult to find something which is completely unique to the market. But if we look at something like Uber, for example, when they came to London, they destroyed the black taxi industry. And Uber doesn't do taxis; they just created convenience. That's all they did. And now obviously they create some collaboration, but it took years to figure that out. So what I would say is take a look at what the competition is doing and, do like a comparison side by side and say, okay, so these guys do this, what can we do differently? That's one task and activity that I do with a lot of my clients. The other thing I wrote down on here was how you're communicating to your clients as well, which is again crucially important. You go back to psychology. I wrote down on here, how is it that you want to make people feel? So in the luxury homes industry, or luxury goods industry, for example, people are buying not necessarily transformation, they're buying convenience. They're buying how you're going to make people's life better.
Mm.
So yeah, so you really need to tap into the psychology of how you want people to feel when they wear that watch, when they're in that limo,
Yeah.
when they're, so you're really tapping into memories and experience. So go back to Walt Disney. Walt Disney's he's in the industry for creating memory. Yeah,
Mm.
he's got Walt Disney parks, but that's what he's known for, is creating memory. So how do you want to do that? And the other thing I wrote down here was exclusivity as well. So you're in a
Yeah.
market which is, exclusive. you know, how do you then tap into what I call the marketing signals or the marketing buzzwords of sense of urgency, exclusivity. There's limited amounts. It's for a limited amount. Think of Rolex in terms of like business. Rolex, once they've created certain limited editions, they might only have 50 on the market. So it's about kind of creating that exclusivity
Yeah.
and how you
Yeah, absolutely. And it's very aspirational and very status driven,
very
that
much, very
space.
much so.
What I find interesting, so uh I'm gonna come across as a right tool, but so having spent the weekend on my business partner's yacht for his 50th birthday and then got upgraded to first class Emirates flying back. And one thing that I've thought about many times is the difference between economy and business class is a huge jump. It's a really, really big jump.
Massive.
And then from business class to first class, not as big, but it's still nice. But there's not actually that many things. So if you, I mean, Emirates and Singapore Airlines are probably two of the best in the world in terms of the delivery of that. But you know, Emirates picks you up in a with a limo from the door,
Limousine. Yeah.
take you to the thing. You know, the experience is seamless and very enjoyable. And there's not many other things in life where you kind of have that pay to premium. You know, you have a little bit with hotels, but airlines, I think, have done it better than anyone else to create that real distancing between sort of economy and luxury. It's quite interesting. I kind of feel like there should be more stuff like that where idiots like myself can pay extra to feel special.
Yeah, no, but you're absolutely right. I think you could apply that to the rail industry, for example. Maybe not to the UK rail industry because that's a bit of a sham, but but you know, there are certainly definitely in terms of exclusivity, but also the other thing that you actually rightly pointed out is people buy value. You know, give you an example. I get picked up from the airport. My taxi picks me up from the airport, and I use one particular taxi firm. And the reason I use him, it's not because he's on time. It's because when I arrive, not only does he take my bags, he's like, "Hey, so would you like a chewing gum? There's a bottle of water there." Do you know what I mean? Like, so they've got these little tiny bits, which makes the whole journey or experience so
Yeah.
much better than other taxi firms. So it's kind of like, how do you then create that differentiating factor? And it isn't, by the way, I wanted to point this out to you, it isn't the fact that you're professional, you're hardworking, I call them standards,
Yeah.
right? So there's a difference between standards and what makes you truly unique. You know, in the world of entrepreneurship, for example, people talk about experience and qualifications. Trust me, no one gives a monkeys. Okay. It's all about what's in it for the client. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, no, definitely. So Leon, just agreeing with us, not only is selling in a group more fun, it's also more efficient as the group is more credible to the buyer, especially if the group is seen as having fun. Yeah, I think there's a lot to be said for that. Look, we're plowing through the time. So I want to end with one thing which kind of goes back to what you're talking about with marketing and experimenting. So I'm talking to an AI firm tomorrow about working with us. What I'm trying to get to is where every client's journey with us is personalized to them. So I'm trying to get that AI back end so that the first interaction with you all the way through the whole thing is personalized to what you're looking for in that. Have you started to play around with that at all?
Yeah, 100%. Definitely. We've always used a bit of AI anyway in terms of making things a bit more process driven, if you like.
Yeah.
One of the things things that we've put in place already that we've had in place for a little while, we'll be using tools and resources such as things like Descript, for example, which might be taking transcripts from, say, conversations like this and turning it into maybe an article or a guide or whatever it might be. Riverside, which is where we jammed on my podcast, for example.
Yeah.
There's some great AI tools embedded in that.
Nice.
It makes things podcast editing just so much more easier, and makes so that's a really good tool. But actually, one thing that we're actually doing right now is we're looking at ways in which we can not create what I call generic messages on outbound messaging on LinkedIn, for example. What I'm trying to do is we put people into 3 different types of buckets. And then according to that, we then try and test certain messages that works particularly well. So like you, Callum, I have a lot of followers. In fact, over 4,000 followers. So it's very difficult to get round to, messaging. And for me, what's important is having quality over quantity, and having that kind of close niche,
Yeah.
connection with people. And not everyone's going to relate to you.
Yeah.
But one thing that we've been trying to do, or are doing right this second, is looking at ways in which we can automate certain processes using AI to a certain point where then it can be handed over to the human side of stuff, where they need a bit of a hand holding. Yeah, humans.
Yeah.
What's that?
So I agree. I'm trying to get it to the point. So basically, you kind of start off with, yeah, this is my customer base, and then you say, well, okay, my customer base is actually, I've got those that are over 50, those that are under 50, or I've got those that are in Europe and those that are in Asia. And you start to segment that base down, and you try and do content for that. What I'm trying to get down to, what I'm hoping AI will enable me to get down to, is where your entire base gets segmented down to one-on-one. And what I want to get to, going back to your point about the video and the video editing, is we've got tons and tons of incredible video footage of me waffling about stuff, of our clients talking about their experiences. And what I'd love to do is, if an Indian woman in her 40s that's currently in a corporate job signs up, then what we're able to do, or what the AI is able to do, is to cut a clip of an Indian woman that we've got in our client base that's talking about her journey, and present that, because it's so much more powerful if it's someone like you. You always sort of think these transformational journeys are okay for somebody else, but wouldn't work for me. So, and of course, manually, that would be an insane amount of work. But I'm hoping that with AI, you can actually get to that point where you have a really, really customized journey. So that's kind of where I'm trying to get to.
Very, very interesting. It's kind of like you're trying to match make certain pieces of content to, newbies that sign up, for example.
Yeah.
It's very fascinating. But then you're actually teaching AI the emotional part of stuff, and why it's recommended that particular video. So it's actually looking at advanced AI strategy and technique more than anything else, but also creating certain prompts that would enable the whole kind of, not automation, but the whole kind of streamlining of putting people in certain buckets, if you like, or segments, and giving them relatable content that helps them to effectively be able to move 10 steps forward, really.
Yeah, and I think, because at the end of the day, from a business perspective, we put people into these social demographic groups because we need to try and break down, and we need to try and manage it in our heads. But you and I, as consumers, don't think of ourselves as 40 to 50-year-old male. That's, like, we think of ourselves as Adam and Callum. And so ideally, we want to be talked to as Adam or Callum. So I think, I'm hopeful that from what I'm seeing so far, that sort of we can get that. The interesting thing is whether you then start to feel this is a personalized experience, this company's gone out of its way, or whether you just think, oh, this is just more AI stuff. And if everyone starts doing it, it kind of loses all its magic pretty quickly. But I might get a head start on someone.
I think it entirely depends on what depends on what you're trying to get done, really. One thing that I found really fascinating, actually, something that we've been just again experimenting with, is using a really great piece of software called Crystal Nose, which is basically it's a link. You can embed it as a LinkedIn plugin on Chrome, and you can effectively, it then shows what type of personality that individual is, how you should speak to them, how you should talk to them, how you should communicate to them in a certain ways, what their trigger points, etc. But imagine being able to know lots of information about that individual, and then effectively teaching the AI the information as well, and articulating certain key messages, which may increase to sales or leads or whatever it is. Think of how powerful that then can become. So that's something that we're looking really into at the moment, which is really, really fascinating.
Yeah, it's interesting that both of us have focused this on primarily more on bringing people into the business as opposed to what it can then do once they're in the business to help them on their transformational journey. But that's definitely the operations side as well. We've had a question. I was just looking for you on YouTube. I couldn't actually find you. What's your URL on? What's your handle on YouTube?
I think it is. Let's just check. That's a really good question. It's Adam Strong. That's all it is. It's Adam Strong. Well, in fact, I got 3 extra followers since this morning. Oh my gosh. Yeah, Adam Strong. That's it. My name.
Why? It's not. You're not even showing up on my search.
Hang on a minute. I'll tell you what I'll do is I'll put it into the chat function just in case you can't see
There you go.
it.
You do that.
There we go. Much easier.
All right.
There you go.
Fantastic. Let me cut and paste that into the LinkedIn one. There you go. Why can't I do that? Okay, cool. All right. So we are at the top of the hour. This was fun.
It was.
There you go. So yeah, hopefully people got some ideas from that. Yeah, always good to chat. We should definitely do this again sometime. And look, I hardly complained about LinkedIn Live the entire trip. I'm very, very proud of myself.
I'm proud of you, Callum.
Well, yeah, the way I hit record 15 minutes into it was so professional. It's
we won't say anything, ladies and gentlemen.
I'll get the hang of it one day. All right, awesome. Thanks very much for your time, Adam. Let's catch up again soon.
Cheers.
Cheers, man. Bye.